Hey guys, welcome back to another guide video. In today's video, we're going to be going over Thunder. Now, before the video starts, huge disclaimer, stuff is still subject to change since meta shifts happen pretty often in Tanki Online. So let's get to it. What does Thunder do? Well, Thunder is a medium firing ranged weapon, and it is one of many weapons that is able to hit multiple targets. The projectiles have a big splash damage, and it has a reload of 2 seconds. Now, the damage does also fall off at longer range. Moving on, let's talk about Thunder's range and damage. Now, the minimum effect range for Thunder is 0 meters. The maximum effect range is as follows. It does a total of 100% of its damage between 0 and 90 meters, but then the damage drops by 25% between 90 and 120 meters. The damage per shot is 900 and critical damage does 1160 damage. Now, a few pro tips that you do want to remember when you're playing with Thunder is that you want to stay at a safe distance. Thunder has splash damage, meaning that you are able to also do self damage, meaning that you have to, well, the closer you are, the more self damage you do, and the further you are, well, there's no self damage there. Now, using splash to your advantage, meaning that you are able to kill multiple targets at a time. Now, this is a splash ranged weapon, so it's typically recommended to have enemies grouped up together. 1v1 situations aren't too bad, but you might want to be playing Siege or CP if you want to do really well with it. Let's talk cost to upgrade. Upgrading from MK0 to MK7 costs a total of 397,000 crystals and 33 rubies. It costs an additional 456,000 to go from MK7 level 0 to MK7 level 20, making a total of 853,000 crystals and 33 rubies. At 30% discount, it costs a total of 597,100 crystals, and at 50% discount, it costs a total of 426,000 crystals. Let's talk about drones. The best drones you could use for Thunder, in my opinion, are Hyperion and Booster. Now, for Hyperion, it's an overall good drone. You could play it with any combo. Now, for Booster, since Thunder only does 900 damage per shot, and a lot of people use Prot against it, your best bet is going Booster because, well, 25 or 30% boosted damage is helpful in the long term. Moving on, let's talk about the best pay-to-win arguments and alternate pay-to-win arguments for Thunder. Now, for the best pay-to-win arguments for Thunder, you have Stricted Ammunition Load, Hyperspeed Shells, Vacuum Shells, Adaptive Reload, and Bolter. Now, for Stricted Ammunition Load, it makes it so that every third shot that you do with Thunder is a guaranteed critical hit. There are no really that many drawbacks to this argument, so it is a pretty decent argument if you do have it. For Hyperspeed Shells, your launch speed is increased, making it much better at shooting targets very fast, but the main drawbacks is that it can't be used for close range. If you are going to use it for close range, your regular damage is decreased by 50%, and your critical hits are completely removed. For Vacuum Shells, your splash radius is a total of 12 meters, meaning that anyone within that 12 meter range do 250% of that regular splash damage. Now, the main disadvantage is that any direct hits to an enemy will result in a negative 25% damage boost. Now, Adaptive Reload. The main advantage is that anytime you hit an enemy, your reload increases by around 33%. The main disadvantage is that if you do miss your shot, your reload is increased by 15%, and your splash radius is also decreased by negative 25%. And finally, for Bolter, its max shell speed is, well, decreased. The shell acceleration is increased. The weapon reload time is also decreased, but the main disadvantage is that your recoil force is increased by 15%, making it much harder to actually hit targets. Now, the reason I haven't added Pulsar to this list is because overall, most Pulsars aren't really good. The only good arguments that the good turrets that you would use Pulsar on are any DPS turrets like Freeze, Firebird, Isida, Hammer, stuff like that. Thunder isn't exactly the one you want to be using. Now, unlike most turrets in Tanki Online, Thunder actually has a healing argument, nanotech shells. Now, for that, it is every time you hit an ally, it does a set amount of healing but the main disadvantage is for some reason they haven't added so that you are able to splash that healing. Now for alternate pay to win arguments, any of the status arguments work. For them, anytime you hit a critical shot, either EMP, AP, stun, jammer, and incendiary or freeze, the status effect applies depending on what status argument you're using. Let's talk about the best free-to-play arguments that you could use for Thunder. The best free-to-play arguments you could use for Thunder are Subcaliber rounds and Subcaliber charging machine. For Subcaliber charging machine, your reload is decreased, but your regular damage is also decreased. For Subcaliber rounds, your reload time is decreased, your projectile speed is much faster, your impact is also increased, your firing speed is also increased. There is only one downside, is that you're not able to hit multiple targets, which is Thunder's whole gimmick. Now, if you don't have any of these free-to-play arguments, your best bet is going Adrenaline, which is basically your critical damage and regular damage is increased up to 23%. The main disadvantage is that it's mostly effective at lower HP, and any sort of freezing done to you will completely disable this effect. Last but not least, let's talk about the best hulls you could use for Thunder. The best hulls you could use for Thunder are Viking, Crusader, and Palicringe. Now, Hopper and Wasp are also very great options if you want to play Thunder for gold catching, for example. A Dictator is also a very great option. Now, if you're playing a mode like Siege or CP, Ares is your best bet for going with it. Thunder overall is a very balanced turret in Tanki Online, and to be honest, you can slap on any hull, and if you play it well, you should be fine with it. And that ends my guide for Thunder. If you do have any questions, do ask in the comments down below. I have recently put a poll up for my next video, so do be on the lookout for that. I'll see you guys all in another video. Peace out.